Okay, so she says that. What's the opposition say? Okay, he denied it back then. All right, continue.
One moment.
In respect for, just to move it along, there's already a court order addressing it and awarding fees.
I just, you know, I wanted to make sure that it was flat out denied in the opposition. And it's like the third paragraph in the opposition.
What proof did you offer, sir, in your opposition that her statements that she had this timeshare from Saturday to Tuesday were false, other than just stating it in your motion?
Your Honor, respectfully, we just asked the court, it's beyond the scope of what
It is.
direct, and
This
it's already
is-
been adjudicated.
This has been adjudicated.
I'll move on.
Please move on.
I'd now like to refer the court to a minute order from April 16th, 2020.
Now you can make me go to a different page.
I'm sorry, I'll happily leave.
No,
mine.
that's okay.
I can do a pleading book for the court too, if that's ever easier, we always do a pleading book for us.
What was the hearing?
It's April 16th, 2020.
Because I've got the actual pleadings here. I just needed to know the date again. April 16th, 2020. 2021 does not work.
April 16th, 2020.
Yeah. I was trying to hit here in 2021. That date don't work. Go ahead.
Okay, and I would refer the court to the bottom of page 1, top of page 2. This court finds that the parties currently share joint legal custody of a child age 5 pursuant to a California custody order April 22nd, 2019. Sir, do you have a California custody order dated April 22nd, 2019?
Nope.
And the defendant, per this order, is ordered to pay $1,000 per month in child support. Judge, I offer to you that Judge Brown or somebody got it wrong.
Well, here's a situation that we have. Hold on. We've had quite a few minutes over a 12-month period of time where even though the heading is one part,
Right.
the minutes themselves belong to another case. I've got 5 of them, and you know, not even counting this one.
Well, what I would
So
just
this
say,
is wrong.
What I would say is Judge Brown potentially, I don't know,
Yeah.
took Leah's motion in pro per in his opposition and made a ruling without a hearing,
Yeah.
made a bad minute order, and
Very
you know
bad.
what Mr. Kelleher did? He went ahead and fixed the minute order, maybe not him, but his staff, fixed the minute order and filed a plaintiff's memorandum of fees and costs referring to facts that were not even in the minute order.
You know what, Your Honor?
You know what? We're not going to go all the way back.
Right.
Okay, we need to
And
stick
first of all,
with this
counsel
move
is not
motion
here.
only,
I do.
please.
We're talking about attorney's fees. That's
We
what I'm
are
getting at.
about to leave to go to lunch in an hour. Do you want to have to come back this afternoon?
I want to get it right. Even
Get
if that
it
means I
right,
have to come
but
back.
like I said, right now, I mean, I'm going to be honest. Right now, at this point, attorney's fees isn't even there. She had a reason to object because of the minimal amount of time he was wanting to let her have, or what it seemed to, in my opinion, and he had a reasonable right to come in here because of her past behaviors.
All right.
Okay?
I'll move on then. If that's,
Thank you.
It's the attorney's fees I was
Yeah,
trying to
I'm
get
not
at.
going to award attorney's fees on this.
Okay.
But there's already attorney's fees awarded.
Correct. The
Correct.
attorney's fees have already been awarded. Those are the only things that's on the table at this point for me to consider offsetting cost of flight.
All right.
I make decisions real fast.
I like that about you, Your Honor. I know you do. Let me go so I can be a little faster. I'd like to, sir, you had mentioned a couple times in the last 12 months when Leah didn't keep her word to return the child as promised. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you would acknowledge that you don't have a specific order that lays out the dates and the times for which the child should be returned. Is that correct?
I do have specific dates and times, and she just refuses to abide by any court order.
Sir, if you could please point to the court order that you have that tells Leah the dates and times she is to have her son.
And while you're looking, where in Virginia are you looking at moving to?
Virginia Beach, ma'am.
Okay.
I believe it's page 204, line C, part 2, or it says Christmas. The Christmas holiday is defined as beginning on December 23rd and ending on December 27th.
Okay? You
Which is
talked
the-
about Memorial Day weekend. Where in here does it talk about Memorial Day weekend?
No, I allowed the Memorial Day weekend. I wish I didn't. Like I said, a domestic violence took place in front of Ethan. She refused to bring him home.
And how did you get Ethan back if she refused to bring him home?
After she used Ethan to get a residence to live in, a couple days after that, she finally brought Ethan home.
Tell me, how does she use your son to get a residence?
She's been doing that for many years. She
Really?
tells people that she is a victim of domestic violence and that she's a
Isn't
single.
she, sir?
No, she's not.
Weren't you
And that-
arrested for domestic violence against Leah
falsely.
in 2014?
Falsely. It was all recorded on
And sir,
audio.
Isn't it true that when you went and had your TPO hearing in New Jersey, the court granted the TPO hearing based on your false evidence?
That's not correct. And the TPO was removed and custody was given to me after the truth came about of
How
her
was the
severe.
TPO removed, sir?
She went and removed it because she was homeless. Her parents have kicked her out of the house. She had a newborn. She had nowhere to go. She had to bring she brought the child to me. She went back and got the order removed, and then she lost custody of him due to her opiate addiction.
Do you think, maybe you feel this way, do you think she used your son to try and live with you and get a residence with
She
you?
absolutely did.
And do you
And
feel that?
she did that with Jamie. She did that with her current roommate situation. She did that in the domestic violence shelters. This is how she's gotten free attorneys. She tells everybody that she's a victim. People believe it. She tells people that she's a single mother. People believe it. And she uses this to her advantage to get free services.
And you know this how, sir?
I've been dealing with this for 7 years now.
Is this the judgment you carry for Leah Bourne, the mother of your child?
No, this is court documents, me documenting everything along the way. This is the guardian ad litem who put her under supervised visitations and told her that she needed to get a residence, a job in her own place, which till this day she has not done.
She doesn't have a job, sir?
She may have a job part-time. I'm not aware.
You're not aware if she has
I
a
don't know.
job?
I don't know where she works. I don't know how she gets her money.
Your counsel didn't show you the pay stubs and the FDF? You didn't have a chance to review that, sir?
I don't recall. No.
You don't know that she works at the Cheesecake Factory for 4 years?
I know in 2020 she disappeared for 8 months. So I know she wasn't working at the Cheesecake Factory in 2020 because she was living in northern Nevada.
Let me ask you this, during this time when she disappeared, didn't she tell you she was quarantining with her husband up in Dyer? Didn't you know that, sir?
No, she told me that she was going to Lake Tahoe, and then out of the blue she was living in Dyer. I had no idea.
It's been asked and answered multiple times, Your Honor.
He keeps saying she disappeared. I just
Okay.
want to know if he knows.
How much weight do you really want me to give that?
His credibility's on the line. I'm thinking about doing the deal and going for it all the way if he keeps lying. But anyway, I'll move on.
You know what, Your Honor, he's like,
I mean, he doesn't know she works at the Cheesecake. He says she doesn't even know she has a job.
He also says that he knows that she moved 17 times, but so it goes to weight and how important is it?
All right.
It's not.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think at this point, Your Honor, I'm going to rest because
Stop.
I do feel that the court. Yeah, you're going to have a chance.
Stop.
She wants it. You're going to have a chance to
He
testify.
just laughed in my face, I'm sorry.
He did.
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right. parties don't get along.
I noticed.
We know that. It's unfortunate because the little guy suffers.
You know, I'm very good at reading between the lines and really taking full oomph of what's going on here. Your client doesn't have clean hands, and I 100% recognize she does not have clean hands. You don't get to take off with kids. You don't get to not return them at a time that was agreed when you took them in the first place. Okay? And trust me, I'm going to have some very strict orders here that must be abided by in this order, or the visitations will stop and be in Virginia only. Trust me on that. But I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask if y'all are both done with him. But I'm pretty sure...
I just have if you'd like to ask your question now, I can hold mine. It goes to child support and what she's paying and when she was ordered to pay. So
And what bearing does it have on him moving and what's going to happen moving forward?
well, I don't know if he's gonna ask for back child support or trying to show
Has
that
there
she
been an
doesn't-
order for child support?
Yeah, there's an order for child support that's in place, he's not asking for back.
That's the one that was $1,000 from the California custody case. It's
Yeah,
since
well,
been
that's-
cleaned up, but
yeah, that-
there was never an order before then.
That, you know, I'm not concerned about those things. We're going, you know, at least going forward, I know what I want to do. If there's any order that's actually signed by a judge that he thinks needs to be enforced, he can take that to the district attorney's office once he gets to Virginia or whatever. Well, probably should be done here because she lives here.
All right, I'll rest, Your Honor.
You
I
like,
don't have anything further, Your Honor. So-
okay, couple of questions that I have. Was a child present when the events in Esmeralda County, the
Yes,
alleged
ma'am.
events, was he there?
Yes, ma'am, he was there, he witnessed the whole thing.
Okay, so when was this?
This was Memorial Day weekend, I believe. Her husband took her cell phone, and she attacked him outside the passenger car door. Ethan was standing up on the porch. She attacked her husband. He went into the house. She then took Ethan and went to the neighbor's home where she called the sheriff. And then she left Ethan at the neighbor's house and she went back to the sheriff.
Okay, so she properly, she tried to properly shield him from it though, then, by taking him to a neighbor's house.
Correct. Well, besides attacking her husband.
Well,
But yes,
you know,
she
sometimes
took
you
him to
react.
the neighbor's house and then
Okay.
she came back with
Right.
the deputy and got her belongings.
When you got Ethan back and he had chewed the feet off of his toy, did
Yes,
you
ma'am.
bother to take him to a therapist?
I actually tried. I talked to my attorney about that. I wanted to get more people involved because we were extremely concerned because we had never seen this behavior before. But to answer your question, we did not take him to the therapist, even
Okay.
though it was brought up.
Okay. She already handled one of my questions. Who hired Stacy Payne?
I did.
Did you know she had the problems that she had when you hired her?
I did not. She actually worked at a company I worked at, but she was only part-time. So I knew her. I just was not aware of her backgrounding or, I mean, it was just a babysitting gig during the
Okay.
day. And it was right down the street from my office.
All right. Would, no, this, on the child support that she is going to be ordered to pay starting today, for sure. Are you, what do you think of her paying all the costs of the transportation, but by giving her, a little bit of a break?
So she does pay child support?
I'm asking, you know, when you relocate,
Mhm.
you know, and this, and this, you know, considering the $9,000 in attorney's fees that's possibly owed. You know, I'm figuring, and I did a quick Google search. I know I'm not supposed to, but I did it because I haven't heard any questions asked what it's going to cost for cost of transportation. Southwest from Richmond, you know, and I know you got a different one, but I just went with Southwest and then added a couple $100 to it. So it'd be $750 round trip. That the three trips that I was looking at, that's going to mean $2250 a year. That would give her a reduction of $187 in the child support. Would you have a problem with that?
My only issue, Your Honor, is that if I pay for a flight for him to fly to Las Vegas, it's not guaranteed that she's going to be there to retrieve him.
Did I say you were going to pay for it?
No, ma'am. I mean, that's...
She would have. She's the one who would be the one who would have to do it. She would be the one who would have to make the flights. And then if she goes after a certain period of time and she doesn't bring him for the vacation, then we have to reconsider the visitation order.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not concerned about child support. I never asked for it. It was only brought up when she made her motion saying that she had de facto joint custody.
Okay.
But I had never, wanted to involve the courts when it came to taking care of anything.
Okay. All right, so y'all kind of see which direction my mind's kind of going with some of these questions here. I don't have any more questions.
I don't have anything further, Your Honor. I would just call the defendant.
Did you forget who she was?
No, I remember. I just was.
Did you look at that plaque and was just reading?
Yeah.
I've done that. We only have 45 minutes before
This is going to be very fast.
Okay.
You do solemnly swear, the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Now, I do want to remind you, when he asks the questions, if you get defensive with him, your credibility will be on the line.
I
Answer the
understand that.
questions.
I understand that.
Okay, ma'am, my name is John Kelleher, and I represent Mr. Ross. Could you just state and spell your name for the record?
Leah Bourne, Leabourne.
Okay, and Ms. Bourne, what is your address? What's your current address?
2406 Inlet Beach Court.
Hold on. Inlet?
Inlet, I-N-L-E-T.
Okay.
Beach Court, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89031.
89031?
31.
Okay. And who resides with you at that address?
My girlfriend Valentina and her daughter Alyssa.
So you have roommates at that location, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And what are the, what are the roommates' names again?
Valentina Jones
Valentina Jones,
and her daughter Alyssa Jones,
Alyssa Jones. And how old is Alyssa?
12.
Did she ever babysit at the age of 10?
Absolutely not.
And how long have you been living at this Valentina Jones house? Is it her house?
Yes.
So she owns the house, is that correct?
Yes.
And how long have you been living at that address?
9 months or so?
Okay. And did you ever provide that address to my client?
Yes.
And you told him that you were living there?
Yes.
When did you tell him that?
When I came back, especially in the court, when we went there September 17th, my old attorney, John Schaller, informed.
Okay. So in September of 2020, you returned to Las Vegas, Nevada. Is that correct?
I did.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about that. So from September 2020 until today's date, your testimony under oath is that you live with Ms. Jones and her daughter. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And prior to that, so prior to September of 2020, you were living in, is it Dyer, Nevada?
Yes.
So, and that's D-Y-E-R, Nevada?
Yes.
Okay. And who were you living with in, what was the address that you were living at in Dyer, Nevada?
Mountain Water Ranch.
So, can you...
Mountain Water Ranch.
Okay.
Lot 6,
Lot 6.
Dyer, Nevada, 89010.
89.
010.
Okay. And when did you first begin living in Dyer, Nevada at Lot 6, 89010?
In the middle of March when the quarantine, excuse me, when the quarantine was called on us.
So March of 2020?
Yes.
All right. So it would be fair to say that you were not actually working at Cheesecake Factory at least since March of 2020 when the pandemic first began until September of 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, they
All right,
closed.
so I just want to make sure. So you were not working at the Cheesecake Factory, correct?
They were closed due
Okay.
to the pandemic.
And in fact, you weren't even living here in town. You were living in Dyer, which is about 4 hours away. Is that correct?
About 3.5 hours.
Okay, 3.5 hours. How many miles is it?
220.
220 miles. Okay. And prior to moving to Dyer, Nevada in March of 2020, where did you live prior to that? What was your address just prior to that?
It was on Silverado Ranch.
Okay, and what was the address at Silverado Ranch?
It was 285 Silverado Ranch, apartment 1081.
1081. Okay, and who was living with you at that address?
Jamie Millis.
And Jamie Millis, and you were married, is that correct?
Yes.
When did you marry him?
July 7th of 2020.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand correctly. You started living with him when?
February. It was probably the 2nd or 3rd of February of 2020.
So February of 2020. And does he have any children?
He has 2.
So he has 2 kids. They live with him?
No.
So how often does he see those 2 kids?
He sees his kids on a regular basis.
Okay. How often?
A regular basis. He was just in town for his son's graduation.
So he doesn't have a set schedule that you're aware of?
No, they're 15 and 18 years old, and one's graduated from high school, so.
Now, there's no question that you're aware that Jamie, your spouse, wrote an affidavit and supplied it to my office. You're aware of that, correct?
I'm aware that you guys made an affidavit and he signed that, yes.
Okay. And you didn't bring him here as a witness today, isn't that correct? Yes
No,
or
because they closed witnessing.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, you didn't list him as a witness, isn't that correct?
At
And
the
you didn't bring him-
time, no.
And you didn't bring him today as a witness, isn't that correct?
No, but that was closed for
And,
us.
and he did, in or around September 9th of 2020, he filed for a protective order against you, isn't that correct?
He did,
And that was in fact granted, isn't that correct?
for 45 days.
And you're aware that he contacted my client, isn't that correct? He called my client, right?
I am very aware.
Okay. And he did that of his own accord. So your husband, Mr. Millis, called my client and told him that he sought and received a temporary protective order against you, isn't that correct?
After
Isn't that true? You're aware of that, right?
What I was told after he spoke to Mr. Moss, that he had told him and warned him to get a TPO on me because Leah's crazy, Leah's going to take you for everything that you have, she's going to put you in jail, and kind of manipulated his mind a lot. Granted, Jamie is his own man and makes his own decisions, but there was manipulating
Let me
going on.
ask you this. Your spouse, Mr. Millis, contacted my office after contacting your former significant other,
Yeah.
and he stated a few days
Objection
after.
Hold it.
calls for hearsay.
Yes, I'm gonna grant that.
Well, respectfully, you can impeach with anything. I'm allowed to impeach. You don't. It can be hearsay. it
But
can be
this
anything
is
else.
your witness now.
It doesn't matter.
You called her.
No, she's an adverse witness, Your Honor, because so long as it doesn't matter who I call. If the witness is the other party, you can always treat as an adverse witness at any time, and you can use anything to impeach.
Here's the problem that I have with that. The husband is not here. You could have called him as your witnesses just as easily.
Well, respectfully, it doesn't.
I'm not
sorry.
going. I'm not going to allow you to read from an affidavit
Well, let me just ask you,
that he's
isn't it
not
true-
here for a cross-examination.
Well, respectfully, Your Honor, and it's okay whatever the decision ultimately is. I'm just saying that the court on this issue is wrong, because you can impeach with anything. You can impeach with hearsay, so long as you're not making an exhibit, and then ask whether the person's aware of it or not. So it's not.
You may ask if she's aware of it. You already asked if she's aware that he wrote this affidavit.
She's aware of it.
Yeah, she is. She's aware he wrote it, and
And you've read
I'm
it.
also, and we're all aware that he wrote this affidavit and gave you this information because he was mad at her.
It doesn't mean it wasn't truthful.
Well, that's true, but he's not here for me to judge his credibility.
Right.
Your Honor, if I may,
May I finish, Your Honor, with the?
if I just may on this issue,
Build your record.
sorry? Oh, if he's going to impeach, what I think the court has said no, but Mr. Millis has also sent another letter retracting that affidavit.
Do you have a copy of that letter?
I do, not in paper
Has he
form.
seen it?
Well, he sent it, Mr. Millis sent it to Mr. Kelleher. So I think if Mr. Kelleher is going to impeach with that, it's only fair, and in giving the court a complete record, that the court see the other letter that says, I lied, in that affidavit. So that's under like rule of completeness, I would argue that.
Well, first of all, like, opposing counsel, in addition to accusing my office of misconduct,
No,
apparently in the
well-
middle of a trial, also doesn't know the rules of evidence.
Yeah,
which is-
when it comes to the misconduct, but if I'm going to allow one, I'm going to allow the other.
Sure.
Okay,
go ahead.
then go ahead, but we will be taking a break here in less than 40 minutes.
Isn't it true that your husband states that you yell at Ethan directly? Isn't that correct? All the time on a regular basis? Isn't that true?
He stated that to you.
Okay. Well, and he swore to it under oath, correct? Is that true?
Is that an affidavit you do
What?
swear under oath?
Well,
I
let me
don't know
ask it
that.
this way. You've decided to stay with him, is that correct? Or he decided to stay with you, is that true?
We decided to make amends and reconcile.
Okay. And you didn't get any counseling as a result of that TPO that was granted against you, correct?
Him and I did online counseling, yes.
Okay. And how long did that counseling last?
We did it for about 3 months.
And what kind of work does he do?
He's in the union,
Okay. What union?
the Glazer Union,
Okay. And how much does he earn?
over $100,000 a year.
Okay. And are you working, which location of Cheesecake Factory do you work at?
I work at the North Las Vegas location, located on 505 South Grand Central Parkway, 89016.
And when is the last time then that you actually lived with your husband?
I have been splitting my time from Vegas and Dyer the past 6 months.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. It's a couple hundred miles away, it's 3.5 hours or so drive,
Yes,
and you're saying that you spend half your time in Dyer and half your time here in Las Vegas?
yes,
Okay, and would it be fair to say that you're spending your days off in Dyer? Would that be fair to say?
it depends when it falls on.
Okay, well, do you work full-time for the Cheesecake Factory?
Right now, we're at part-time hours because we're starting to pick back up.
Okay, so how many hours a week do you work at the Cheesecake Factory?
It
Since
depends,
September until
like-
today?
It can go anywhere from 10 to 20 hours and up. It really just all depends.
Okay, so 10 to 20 hours, but you do expect to go back full-time?
Yes,
All right. And you make tips, is that correct?
yes,
And you also get paid an hourly?
yes.
All right, so let me make sure I understand it correctly. You work 10 to 20 hours a week, and it'd be fair to say that you don't have a set schedule, correct?
I do have a set schedule with work.
Well, okay. You're telling me that some weeks you work 10 hours and other weeks you work 20, and if I understood your testimony just a few minutes ago, is that you don't have set hours?
I work
Correct.
Tuesday through Saturday with a set schedule of being off Sundays and Mondays.
Okay.
That is a set schedule.
And would it be fair to say that pretty much every Sunday to Monday you would be up in Dyer?
No,
Okay. What days of the week then, let's take a typical week, would you be up in Dyer?
if I had Ethan on a Sunday and I picked him up at 8 in the morning and I would drop him off at 6 p.m., I would leave Sunday and go spend a few days up in Dyer.
Would you agree with me that if you're working on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, you wouldn't drive all the way up to Dyer and then drive back to work the next day, would you?
Oh, I have. Gone for
Okay.
48 hours. The drive is really not that big of a deal and I don't mind it.
Have you canceled any visits with your son over the last 6 months, yes
I
or no?
have, yes.
And isn't it also true that you have refused to give my client the address where you live? Isn't that correct?
Nope, he's known about this.
Isn't it true that you told my client and my office in writing, through your attorney, that you were going to the East Coast for Christmas? Isn't that correct?
Yes,
And in fact, you didn't go to Christmas on the East Coast. Instead, you went up to Dyer, Nevada. Isn't that correct? Yes or no? Isn't that true?
yes, but if I can
All right.
elaborate on
You can
that.
explain your own attorney, but you told us you were going one place through your attorney, and you actually went somewhere else. Isn't that true?
The plan
Yeah.
was to go to New Jersey,
Okay.
and there were tickets booked, and I had to cancel them.
And isn't it true that you then were supposed to have Ethan back pursuant to an agreement through our law offices, my law office and your attorney's law office, and you didn't meet that deadline, isn't that correct?
I didn't
Yeah.
because there was a dangerous snowstorm.
And you were over 2 days late, isn't that correct?
It was a
Is
day
that true?
later.
If the record shows it was 2 days, you wouldn't disagree, would you?
I was supposed to have him back on the 28th, and I had him returned on the 29th.
Isn't it true, ma'am, you never told my office or my client that in fact you went to Dyer, Nevada until after you didn't return him on time? Isn't that true?
That is true.
Okay. And you'd agree with me that that's irresponsible? Would you agree with me in that statement? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. And you would understand, let me ask it this way, you would understand why my client would be concerned to get a call from your husband indicating there had been domestic violence and he was seeking a TPO. You can understand why you'd be concerned about that. Would you agree with that
Of
statement?
course, yeah.
And as you sit here today, you adamantly deny that you ever committed any domestic violence against your husband. Isn't that correct?
Yes,
So he was lying about that. Is that correct? Isn't that true?
yes.
And he lied about other things in that affidavit about you. Is that true?
Unfortunately, yes.
And if the court grants you all these weeks that you're asking for in terms of, well, can we strike it? In terms of your work schedule, if you work 40 hours a week, would you still have Sunday and Monday off?
Yes.
Do you have any idea as to when you'll be back full-time?
It could be anywhere in the next month or two. We went to
Okay.
100% this month, so things are changing.
Okay. Who would babysit if the court granted you all the weeks that you're asking for? What would the babysitting situation look like?
Well, I would have it coordinated with my work schedule, whether I was working during the day or the night. Jamie works during the day, I would work during the night and have him watch him. And I do have a babysitter that he was with back 2 years ago when I did work, and her name is Tori, who is a 16-year-old who he loves, that I would take them to her house and he would watch under the supervision of her mother, Angelique, who was my girlfriend.
Now, in this affidavit written by your husband, which you've read, he indicates that you drink on a regular basis shots in front of Ethan. Is that true?
Absolutely not.
And that was part of the false statements he
Yes.
made. And in addition to that, do you take opioids?
I take prescription medication.
Okay, and they're opioids, correct?
One of them is.
All right, and what opioids do you take?
It is a Percocet.
Okay. And how much Percocet do you take a day?
It's based on my pain level. I'm
Okay.
prescribed to take 4 a day if needed.
Okay, and what's the strength of that Percocet?
15 milligrams?
And you can take it as many times as you need, up to 4 times a day?
Yes.
Okay. And it would be fair to say that from 2017 until the present, you've used opioids, correct?
As needed, yes.
Okay, and what other opioids have you used besides Percocet from 2017 until the present?
I haven't used any other medication.
So you've always used Percocet from 2017 until the present?
Yes, that is the pain medicine that my pain management doctor uses for me.
And the amount that you take, though, is increased, isn't that correct?
No,
The dosage hasn't increased at all since 2017?
no. We took away one of the medications too.
Was that an opioid?
It was a controlled release one, yes.
Okay, and what kind of opioids were you on before, in addition to the Percocet?
It was an oxycodone controlled release.
Okay, and when did you stop taking oxycodone controlled release?
Probably about 1.5 years ago.
And it's your testimony that you've never abused any of these opioids since the time you started taking them, is that correct?
That is correct. In fact, I'm in a pain management where they do pill counts and urine testing.
Well, let me ask you this in terms of your relationship with Ethan and my client. There's no question that a court in Texas found that you were in violation of the UCCJA and ordered the child back to the custody of dad in Virginia, correct?
Correct.
And you were ordered to pay $7,500 in attorney's fees, isn't that correct?
I don't remember.
You don't remember being ordered attorney's fees against you?
I don't remember the amount.
Okay, but you do remember being ordered attorney's fees that were
You know what, that
granted.
morning, with everything going on, I will honestly admit that I was foggy with the whole thing. So he did award them. I didn't look at the paperwork. I was just very upset at the whole situation.
Were you taking opioids that day?
No,
Do you take opioids every day?
no,
In addition to that award of attorney's fees, you've never paid any of it, isn't that true?
no.
Okay. No, you've not paid any of
I
it.
have not paid.
And then you were aware that the court in this building, the judge's predecessor, ordered you to pay $1,500 in attorney's fees, and you were definitely aware of that, correct?
I was aware of that, but because of the order, again, which Julie had told the judge, the minute order and it being messed up, we brought that in with my first lawyer, John Schaller, and we were waiting to get in front of the judge to get a definitive answer on that. So I
So you
was
haven't
aware
paid
of
the
it, but,
attorney's fees?
no, I was aware of it, but we were going to appeal it due to the nature of the minute order and not a fair hearing or trial or even being able to be heard that day.
Well, you understand, because you've now had, how many lawyers in this case have you had?
I've had Julie and one other, John
Okay.
Schaller.
But in Texas, you had a lawyer? Is that
No, I
right?
did not.
Okay. How many different lawyers did you have in Virginia?
I hired one who I wasn't happy with, and I hired another.
Okay, so you had two lawyers in Virginia. Did you have a lawyer in New Jersey?
No.
And in terms of this attorney's fees, I want to make sure I understand it correctly. You haven't paid any of it, isn't that true?
No, in fact, I just got something from your office stating that you garnished it from my paycheck.
So you've never voluntarily paid any, correct?
No, because I was waiting to get into court to discuss that.
And how much have you actually paid in attorney's fees in this case?
My first lawyer I had given probably $6,000 to, and Julie I've given $5,500 to.
Are you aware that Ethan has a sibling? Are you aware of that?
Yes,
Is it your understanding that Ethan gets along well with his sibling?
I hope so.
Would it be, in your opinion, in the best interest of Ethan to have a continual relationship with that sibling?
Of course.
You understand that my client has a rotating schedule with that sibling in terms of the visitations and custody and things like that, right?
I understand there is an order in place, but I know that she does not come out during the times that she's supposed to.
Okay. And you based that on what?
Because this Christmas vacation, she was supposed to be out here, which is why he told me I couldn't go to New Jersey. She never came. And the last time my son saw his sister was last summer. And he tells me this.
Because he likes spending time with his sister?
Just because he hasn't seen her in a while or talked to her. Daddy said that she was sick over Christmas, but he wasn't sure that was true. But that's what my son told me.
Do you know if there were any restrictions about travel from the East Coast because of COVID at the last Christmas? Yes or no?
There was none.
In terms of your work schedule, then, you're saying that you sometimes work the evenings. What would your hours be in the evening?
5 o'clock till close. And even if we close the restaurant at 10, you could be there till 11:30, 12.
To your knowledge, does your husband have a criminal record?
He does.
Okay, and what's your husband's criminal record?
About 25 years ago, he got a battery charge.
Has he had any arrests that you're aware of for DUI?
I believe he had 1 DUI in the past as well, too.
Okay, do you know how recent that was?
It was not recent.
And at the end of this case, is your plan to go and live in Dyer, Nevada with your husband?
No, actually, his plan is to come here and start work. And we've been looking at different properties to move July 1st.
Would you agree that it would make sense for my client to have the address and phone number as to where you guys actually live? Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you have a problem taking photographs showing the inside and outside of the house as to where the child lives?
I have no problem with that.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Your Honor, in an effort to save time, and I know it's lunch, if I may direct my witness, but I'd also like to go outside the scope of his cross rather than have
Yeah.
to call from my case in chief.
I'm gonna, yeah,
Okay, all right, thank you.
it does save time.
It does, and I think that we have an agreement on the big stuff, it's just the custody stuff, so I just wanna get
You
through
mean the
that.
visitation stuff? Custody's
Yes.
decided.
Yeah, visitation, thank you. Terms and conditions of visitation. Ms. Bourne, I'd like to briefly direct your attention to March 2017. Do you recall this time?
Yes.
And is this the time you and Joseph had moved to Las Vegas?
Yes.
As Joseph pointed out in his examination, he had emergency primary custody that turned to primary custody in Virginia, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you know if he petitioned the court in Virginia to relocate to the state of Nevada?
No.
Why not? Why didn't he petition, if you know?
He asked to keep it out of the court and asked if I would move across the country.
And did you agree to move across the country?
At first, no, and then I did agree.
Okay. When you agreed what agreements did you and Joseph make in preparation for moving to Nevada?
We had verbal agreements that we were going to come out here and live separate lives, but co-parent Ethan, and that he would never withhold Ethan from me. We're not even going to really follow the order. We just wanted to get it done and over with after a year of being in court.
I want to stop you right there. When you say you weren't going to follow the order, you mean the custody order that you signed?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time you signed the custody order, is Joseph correct that you received that custody order that morning?
I did receive it that morning.
And who gave that custody order to you?
His lawyer.
His lawyer did. And is it your recollection that she drafted the order?
He drafted it.
He drafted it?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to review it?
I did, but not for very long.
Okay. And was Joseph making any verbal representations to you as you were reading the agreement?
What do you mean by verbal
So
representation?
aside from what was in the contract, was he telling you certain things that weren't in the agreement?
Yes, we verbally agreed that we weren't going to follow that, and if I didn't go to New Jersey and followed him to Vegas, he would never keep Ethan from me.
Okay. And in reliance on his promise not to keep Ethan from you, you and Joseph upped your life and moved to Las Vegas, is that
We did.
correct? All right. In several of his motions and oppositions, he tells this court that he had a 3-year plan when he moved here, and that you knew about it. And after that 3 years, his plan was to go back to Virginia Beach and start a new company. Were you aware of that plan?
No,
Did he ever talk to you about a 3-year plan?
no,
Did you believe in your mind that you were coming here to make a life once and for all?
yeah,
And in fact, did you do that?
yes.
What has it been like trying to see your son with the current custody order?
It brings a lot of anxiety to me. It's embarrassing. I feel like I have to beg to see my child. I feel like it's never a civil conversation. I can't just talk to Joe about anything about Ethan. He fights me on everything. It's unfortunate too, because my child is the one suffering for it.
Do you feel like it's a negotiation every time you
I
want
do.
to see Joe?
Absolutely. In an instance just
Or-
last week, he punished me because I didn't pick him up on a Sunday, but I asked to have him on Thursday through Saturday, which he denied me. And then he told me, well, if you're not coming on Sunday, just know I've made plans for him for next Sunday, so you will not be seeing him.
Okay. Is it true that you've seen in 2018, 2019, your son about 45 days a year?
I'm sorry, when?
Is it true what Joe represents to this court, that on average you see your son 45 days a year?
I would say in this past year, because of everything that's been going on with court issues and him not allowing me to have him overnight, yes.
Let
This
me
year,
stop you right there. This past year, meaning from January to we're now in June, so we're talking about 6 months.
yeah, in the past 6 months, I've probably seen my child 15 or 20 times.
Okay. And have you asked to see him more often?
Yes.
Okay. And have you had a schedule at Cheesecake of having 2 days off a week?
I did. In 2018, September, after working for a year at the Cheesecake Factory, I had enough seniority to ask my GM if they could grant me Sunday and Mondays off, because for the year previous to that, I was calling Joe on a weekly basis, telling him my 2 days off a week that I wanted to have Ethan on. So I wanted to have more of a set schedule, so he gave me Saturday nights off where I'd be able to have Ethan after work on Saturday if I was scheduled that day, and keep him through Tuesday.
Okay. So you said that kind of fast. I just want to slow you down. So at some point, you gained enough seniority at Cheesecake Factory, you were able to get a set schedule.
Yes.
And you were able to get 2 days off a week.
Yes.
And those 2 days were
Sunday and Monday.
Sunday and Monday. And so you would ask Joe, and you would pick up Ethan Saturday night?
Saturday, if I worked during the day, I would get off about 5 and be able to get over to his place by 6.
And when would you return Ethan?
And then I would take him to school Tuesday morning. I would take him to school Monday and Tuesday morning
And this went on for how long?
for about a year and a half.
And at some point, did that change?
It changed when I moved in with Jamie.
Okay. And that's when Joseph invoked that roommate, that famous
Yes.
roommate clause?
Yes.
All right. You heard Joseph indicate several times that your son witnessed domestic violence between you and your husband. Is that true?
No.
What is true about that incident?
There's nothing true about that incident. In fact, my son wasn't even around when him and I had the disagreement outside.
Mr. Kelleher asked you about your husband's criminal record. Does Joe have a criminal record that you're aware of?
Absolutely.
All right. Has he ever been arrested?
Yes.
All right, let's talk about all the times he's been arrested, starting in 2010.
It's going to object, Your Honor, like that's all McGonigal.
Yeah, it's McMonagle.
Right,
It's-
McGonigal, right.
His arrest was way back when. I'm not concerned about him.
All right. To your knowledge,
And by the way, Mr. Kelleher, you opened the door.
Well, respectfully, no, I didn't, Your Honor, because.
You
I
asked
want-
if he'd been convicted.
No, I want to be
of
really
these
clear.
things.
It's, McGonigal is anything before the last order between the parties. I'm asking about someone that she's married to a very short time ago.
Okay.
Right, so it wouldn't, I'm not
All right.
asking about, right.
All right.
and in your honor too, McMonagle is great when you can't bring it in for purposes of changing custody, but I'm not bringing it in for the purpose of trying to change custody. Just so the court is clear, it's being offered for a different purpose.
Can't bring it in for any purpose, Your Honor.
Well, we
It's
disagree on.
not something in which I'm, it's taken into consideration for anything.
All right.
If it's something that happened in the past, if it was, I just read something on that. If it is something to show a continuing pattern, then it can be brought in, as long as it's not being brought in to try to change custody.
Well, that's what I'm gonna bring it in for, your honor.
So-
It goes to his drug use, and he's admitted in his deposition that he currently uses drugs. They opened the door about her Percocet, I wanna talk to him about his marijuana use, and it started back in 2010.
Marijuana is,
You're right, it's legal.
it's legal.
It
It's
is
not
legal.
gonna be legal
And
in
so
Richmond,
Percocet.
then if you wanna bring a change in custody back in Virginia because he's using, then that's one thing. But here, it doesn't matter.
All right. You were asked about, by Mr. Kelleher, if you had canceled any visits with Ethan, and you said yes.
Yes.
You weren't asked why. Could you tell me, or tell the court, why you canceled some of those visitations in the last 6 months?
Yes. There was a time where I came down and I was sick with a cold. 3 days I was out, didn't want to bring that around Ethan. Unfortunately, 2 weeks later, I was told by my work that I came in contact with someone with COVID and had to get a test, and I did not want to bring Ethan around me knowing that I could be positive or not. I did wake up maybe a month after that with a very bad toothache. My face was swollen and had to go to urgent care. And then most recently, I was in the emergency room and was admitted because they did a CAT scan on my spine after my arm went numb. And then wanted to do a further MRI, and I was in the emergency room for over 26 hours. That fell into Easter, in which I had to text Joe at 3 in the morning and let him know that I was still in the emergency room and I would not be able to be there for that visit.
When you informed Joe of these medical emergencies and medical conditions that you had, did he ever offer you makeup time on any other day of the week?
No, he scolded me for it.
Were you ever allowed to just take Ethan for like a mommy-son date on a Monday night for dinner?
Rarely,
Did you always have to give a 48-hour notice if
Yes.
you just want to pick him up, take him to the park?
yes,
Did you always have to call and give your schedule a week in advance?
yes.
Is it true that you refused to give Joe your address of where you were living?
No, I did not refuse to give him my address. He's had my addresses. And there's only been a few, not 20.
How many times? I mean, I don't even think it matters at this point, but you'd say it's been less than 20, is that correct?
Most definitely.
All right. Let's talk about this Christmas incident, because I know it was brought up at the depot before Christmas, and we tried to avoid a problem.
Yeah.
What was your agreement with Joe about taking Ethan for the Christmas holiday, which fortunately is the only holiday that gives some dates in the custody order?
Right.
What agreement did you have with Joe about Christmas?
I had told him a month ahead of time that I was taking Ethan home for Christmas to New Jersey to spend with my family because it was the first year that everyone was going to be together.
Okay.
And he told me, you know that I get my daughter on even years, so why would I ever agree to that? And I said, well, you signed the custody agreement on even years. I get Ethan for Christmas. So your daughter's visitation for you on Christmas has nothing to do with my scheduled holiday with my son. And after the year that he put me through not seeing my son, that vacation was very well needed for all of us in my family. He denied me having that and then caused even more drama with my family. So
I'm going to stop you right there, because I just want to break it down a little bit for the court. In your custody order, you have Christmas from, I think it was the 21st to the 27th?
23rd, the
23rd through the 27th, okay.
Yes.
And you told him you were gonna have him over that Christmas holiday, is that correct?
Yes.
And did he say yes?
No, he always says no.
He said no, even though it was in your custody order?
Yes.
All right. Did he ask for like proof of where you were going or where you were gonna be?
Nope, he just denied me and said that his sister was going to be here and I wasn't taking him.
Okay. At some point, did you inform him that based and relying upon your custody order, you bought tickets to New Jersey for Christmas?
Yes, and I
you
did.
Okay, and did you show him this itinerary?
I sent him the tickets and I sent him the cancellation and the money rewarded back to my card
And
for
in
that
fact, you gave
confirmation.
those to me and I gave those to
Yes,
council?
I did.
Or if you know, okay.
Yes.
All right. So you wind up canceling that trip because you believed Joe wasn't even gonna give you Ethan?
Yes,
All right. At some point, did you wind up getting Ethan anyway?
I did.
And is that, and to your knowledge, did his daughter ever come for Christmas? on
She
the
did not.
year? She didn't come. And so, what day did you pick up Ethan?
I picked him up on the morning of the 23rd.
All right. And you took him for your break?
I did.
Okay. And you returned on, you were set to return on the 28th?
Yes.
And is that because of an agreement you had with Joe, or were you following the custody agreement?
I was following the custody agreement and I told him that's when Ethan would be home.
Okay. All right. And was he home on the 28th?
He was not.
What happened?
There was a big snowstorm that came in. When I tried to get on the road that day, my car was sliding. In fact, I took pictures for Joseph to look at and show him the road. And I said, I cannot take my car and drive Ethan home. And being, the concerned parent I wasn't risking that with Ethan in the car. Now I said, if you need him home today for a specific reason, you can drive up here and pick him up. But I am not chancing or risking our life on the road.
And did you in fact send videos and photos of
I
the
did.
snowstorm to
I
your
did.
counsel?
Yes.
And do you know if your counsel reached out to the other side?
Yes.
Okay.
He knew I was bringing him home and even filed a motion knowing that he was coming home too.
Right, I'm very well remembered that. Did you tell your client where you were going for the Christmas holiday?
No,
Why not?
because he wouldn't let me have Ethan.
Okay. Because you had a husband
Mhm.
and he was your roommate? Well, according to Joe, right?
Yeah. He wasn't going to let me have him to take to my family in New Jersey. He wasn't going to let me have him for any other reason.
Right.
And I was not foregoing my Christmas break that I was owed with my son.
Our son.
Our son.
By the way, I want to clarify something. Yours, by the order I'm looking at, the child was supposed to have been returned on the 27th, not the 28th.
We agreed in text messages for the 28th.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Let me just clarify, because even though the order said the 27th, you had an agreement in a text message that said the 28th.
Yes.
Do you have that text message as an exhibit?
I have all the text messages. When I came onto this case, unfortunately, Your Honor, Discovery had closed or was
Okay.
about to close, but I have the text message somewhere.
I have it on my phone.
My client could probably find it for you.
It's not that important.
But I do
Okay.
have it if you need to see it.
We actually, yeah, we have a lot of text
Anyway,
messages.
we have 10 minutes.
Okay, all right.
And we are coming back, so, it's just if you get to a good stopping point, we
Okay.
can go ahead.
All right, perfect. I want to ask you about your Percocet use. When you were 19 years old, you were, did you receive a medical diagnosis when you were around 19?
Yes.
What was that medical diagnosis?
I was diagnosed with disc degenerative disease, DDD.
And for those of us who don't know what it means, and I think we all do, what does that mean? What happens to the discs in your back?
Your discs start wearing at a faster pace than normal people.
And does that cause you pain?
Yes.
Could you describe what that pain feels like?
Sharp pain, tingling pain, numbing pain.
And have you been managing this pain since the time you were 19 years old?
No.
Okay. When did you start to manage the pain?
Started managing the pain in my mid-20s when I started having more issues regarding my spine.
After you had the baby?
No. In fact, I had Ethan after my spine surgery, but because of that I was put on permanent bed rest.
Okay, so you actually had a surgery on your spine?
Yes, my spine is fused.
Okay. And how many, you were asked about your Percocet, and I know you said you can take up to 4 per day if needed. Do you take 4 Percocet a day?
No.
Do you take any other medications to try and alleviate the pain?
Ibuprofen
And how often do you take ibuprofen?
I take that on a daily basis. If I can take that without taking anything else, I will.
Do you manage the pain any other way?
Right now, all they will do for me is steroid injections, medication, or it's surgery.
Okay. And do you take your Percocet as prescribed or as needed?
Yes.
Do you ever mix a cocktail and get high?
No.
Okay. Do you drive your son around
No.
when you're on a Percocet?
No.
And when do you usually take the Percocet?
Usually it's at night, at the end of the day.
Okay. You were asked about a UCCJEA award. Do you even know what that means?
I have no idea.
Okay. Do you recall a time in Texas when you left Virginia to go to Texas?
Yes.
And is one of the reasons you left Texas, or excuse me, one of the reasons you left Virginia to go to Texas is the same reason you left Vegas to go to New Jersey because of the
Yes.
domestic violence with Joe?
Yes.
And you filed police reports in both cases.
Yes.
And he was arrested in one,
Yes.
and he sat in custody for 21 days.
Yes.
And you went home with Ethan when he was 2 months old to your family.
Yes.
And when Joe returned to New Jersey, you had filed a TPO against him.
Yes.
And he went to petition the court and tell the court his side of the story, right?
Yes, and the judge granted me a final restraining order on him.
When you say final restraining order, what does that mean?
In the state of New Jersey, it stays on him until I lift it.
Permanently?
Permanently.
Forever?
Forever.
We don't have those here.
No.
At some time, did you ever agree to lift the restraining order?
I did.
Why?
About a year after.
Why did you agree to lift it? Were you
Um,
homeless? I think he said you were homeless.
Yes.
Is that why you lifted it?
Him and I agreed to move in together and co-parent for Ethan, but it was under, you have to get rid of the restraining order, so I did. We couldn't be living together and me having a restraining order against him anyway.
Right. Because you wanted to give your family a go. You wanted to give your
It's
relationship.
like so leading, I'd let it go up until
Yeah.
now.
I'll rephrase. Were you, what was your intention when you lifted the restraining order?
I wanted Ethan to have a relationship with Joe. For the first year and a half, he wasn't part of his life.
For the first year and a half?
Yes.
What happened when you guys moved in together
I'm
after
gonna
you
object,
lifted the
all this
restraining
is
order?
like, you've been told her several times, it's McGonigal versus McGonigal. Everything from 2017 back is not.
Goes to the fee award. But,
I'm not awarding fees.
Yeah, sure.
all right. I just don't want you to collect on that judgment either.
The judgment's gonna be collected on,
Yeah.
From Texas is what I'm hoping.
even from Texas. It's going to be collected on.
Yeah, but
We're
that's-
going to make sure all of these outstanding issues are going to be taken care of.
All right. All right. I want to talk to you about a schedule that you would wish to have with Ethan, since you've now agreed to the relocation. I'd like you to have continuous contact and be in your son's life, and I'm sure that's something you want.
Yes.
And that's leading, I'll object to my own question. Okay. Let's talk about summers with your son. What kind of timeshare would you like in the summer?
I would like to have Ethan at least for 8 weeks in the summer.
All right. And when we were looking at the break in Virginia, the school break, he gets about 12 weeks vacation in the summer, is that correct?
I believe so. In Virginia Beach, you get out of school about mid-June,
Okay.
and being that Father's Day is typically the third weekend, if it does fall, that's usually the latest it does fall on, so it would just be getting Ethan after Father's Day weekend and keeping him up until 2 weeks before he goes back to school, and they go to school the day after Labor Day.
All right. One of the concerns is how could you, what would childcare look like? In addition to childcare that you testify to, are you open to summer camps?
Of course.
You open to swim school?
Of course.
Do you get a vacation with the Cheesecake Factory where you could actually travel with Ethan over this time?
Absolutely.
All right. I know that you mentioned that your husband makes $100,000 a year, or about. Is it true that he's been unemployed for quite some time?
Yes.
How long has he been unemployed?
Since March 12th, 2020.
Okay. So is he able to help pay for these flights?
Not right now.
Okay. And even if he were, do you think it's his responsibility to pay for you to go visit your son across country?
Well, we're married, so he would support me.
Wow. You got a nice husband. Is that something you wanna rely on, a man to support you?
No, I don't.
I'm gonna
know.
object Your Honor, to leave.
No, I don't.
All right. Well, let's talk about on your salary alone.